Welcome back to the Midnight Gospel, where we return to God, one night at a time. Tonight, we reflect on welcoming sacred time, letting go into divine presence from Ecclesiastes 3:1. Not to figure it out, but to rest with it, to let God speak through silence. What if you were never far from Him? What if your tired heart was already holy? What if God waits for us not in noise, but in the quiet? Let the room settle around you now, walls softening in the hush. The ticking clock finds its own slow sway. Maybe the only thing left to do is nothing at all. There's no secret ritual, no perfect prayer, just the hush between breaths and the promise that this, too, is sacred time. It's hard to trust in sacred time. Most of us were taught that worth is tied to work, that meaning comes from movement. But all things, says the old, gentle scripture, have their season. There's a time for holding on and a time for letting go. Even God invites us to rest. Even God carved out a Sabbath in the whirling days of creation, a place where the world could breathe. You don't have to earn your sleep tonight. You don't have to prove your longing. In the sanctuary of darkness, you are already enough. There's a hush as deep as water, and you are lying in its arms. Sometimes we're afraid the quiet means emptiness. But listen closer. Quiet is where God waits. Quiet is His invitation. You can lay down your worries at the doorway. You can let tomorrow's questions drift into the midnight air. Right now, even your silence is an offering. In this small window between waking and sleep, the world softens its grip. Maybe you notice the warmth of your blanket, the gentle ache behind your eyes, the hush of your own breath. Time itself feels different here, a soft pooling around your soul, not rushing forward, not pulling back, just being, just presence. God isn't looking for grand declarations or neat answers. He's been awake through every restless night, already curled beside you in the stillness, speaking in the gentle language of comfort. You are not alone. You are not forgotten. You were meant for this sacred pause, where the Spirit might come closer still, filling in the spaces where words can't reach. You don't have to look for Him. You can just let Him find you here in the unhurried dark. The night becomes a simple prayer. Welcome. The sacred has always lived here. For everything there is a season, and tonight this is yours. There's something honest about the hour when lights have faded and the body finds itself restless, shifting against the sheets, searching for a comfort it can't quite name. If you're here, awake while the world is sleeping, you know this ache, the flutter of spiritual anxiety, the quickened heartbeat of a longing that won't let go. And I see you the way a friend does in the dark, not for fixing, but for quietly understanding. Maybe no one's ever told you how normal it is, this secret ache for more, the tremor inside that asks if God really knows your name. Maybe you were taught that faith should settle you, but all it's done tonight is make you wonder if you're missing something bigger, something sacred and out of reach. Sometimes faith feels far, like a word you once knew but can't quite recall. Sometimes longing is all you can feel, like a song hiding beneath your ribs, waiting to be sung. I can't count the nights I lay here, eyes fluttering against the dark, chasing every anxious thought around the room, wondering if anyone, even God, could meet me in the place I truly was. The heart can long and doubt at the same time, flickering between hope and old fears, between the memory of quiet and the noise of the mind. And in those hours, we start to believe that no one else has known this kind of distance, this invisible ache underneath. But you are seen in the shadows, beneath every old story you carry, through each secret sigh that never found words. You are known, not for the mask you wear in daylight, but for the silent longing that slips in after midnight. Let yourself be softly held in that longing tonight, not to solve it, not to chase it into answers, but just to be alive with it, just to feel the tender pulse of being human and holy all at once. Because something in this ache belongs. Something sacred stirs in the restless heart like a prayer whispered through closed lips. And maybe in the hidden longing, God is already near, sitting close, saying nothing, just holding the ache with you until you finally drift toward rest. Sometimes God doesn't thunder. He doesn't rumble in the clouds or shout above the noise. Not in the wind that shakes the trees or in the rush of the world outside your window tonight. He waits, softly, like someone sitting next to you in a quiet room, not saying a word unless you want to listen. Sometimes I wonder if that gentleness is all we ever needed, a God who is not loud but deeply near. Maybe it's only when the world grows still, when the mind loosens its grip and the day grows thin, that we sense something ancient curling beside us, close as our own breath. I know the ache that comes when prayers feel like questions echoing in some empty room. The way silence can feel like an absence, like maybe we've missed something, or maybe even God Himself. But what if He's been right there, just beneath the rush, just under the surface, not waiting for perfect words, but meeting us beneath them? I've wondered all the ways I might have missed Him in my trying, in my worrying, my noise. But the whisper is always present. It doesn't demand attention. It's like the way a mother hums beside a crib. It's like your hand in the cool grass, the warmth of a mug in your tired palms. You don't force it. It's just there, inviting you to slow down, even if only for a moment. Sometimes sacredness is quieter than we thought. Sometimes peace comes softly, like an old friend sitting quietly so you don't have to be alone. I think of Ecclesiastes, how there is a season for everything, a time to speak, a time to keep silent. The soul acquires a new kind of hearing when the body surrenders its hurry. Maybe this is how God speaks, not as a stranger shouting instructions, but as the oldest love, waiting for the heart to get quiet enough to hear the deepest truth that we are already loved, already enough, already home. There is a moment just before sleep when your mind begins to drift, a space where the edges blur and the softest truths feel close. Listen there. In that holy hush, beyond thoughts about tomorrow, beneath regrets and old stories. That's where the whisper lives. In the rhythm of your breath, in the steady beat of being alive, a love that can wait forever because it knows you by heart. You are not far. You never were. In the hush between words, in the calm beneath the ache, God is speaking in the language only silence understands. Ecclesiastes 3:1. There is a time for everything, even for the whisper, especially for the whisper. Somewhere deep in the folds of your story, maybe long before memory, there grew a hush that said, God is far. Maybe it crept in with disappointment, trailing the sense that the answer never came or arrived too late. Maybe you remember a night staring at the ceiling, heavy with the sense that you were left waiting for a voice in the dark and all you heard was your own breath, steady and alone. Tonight, let's be honest together. There are moments when silence feels like exile. The soul becomes tender and raw, not wanting to admit how loud it aches. When prayers stretch long and days move slow, it's easy to fall for the old suspicion that perhaps you were forgotten, tucked behind someone else's miracle, missing the time when everything changed for others. It's easy for hope to quiet like a child curling in on itself, not wanting to ask again, just in case the delay is a kind of answer. I've sat at the edge of my own bed, watching the moon lay stripes across the floor, wondering if God could still recognize the shape of my waiting. If the quiet in my soul was an empty room or sacred invitation. We hide the ache from each other, tucking it beneath grown-up schedules or worn-out bravado, but underneath, something in us still wonders if we're late or if God is slow, or if maybe the line broke right when we needed to hear the most. But friend, even in this whispering dark while your eyelids grow heavy, I want to tell you, I know that silent ache, the uneasy truce with what feels denied, the story that begins, once upon a time I was supposed to be chosen, or if only I mattered more, yet somewhere a greater hand holds the quiet, not shaming it, not rushing it out of the room, just cradling it like you would the smallest bird. Let tears come or let them stay hidden inside, for here in this space even the ache belongs. No answer needed, no timing justified, only a soft place to wonder. What if none of us were ever truly alone in the waiting? Sometimes disappointment enters the room like a subtle chill, not sudden, but seeping, quiet in its approach. Maybe you know the rhythm, plans written in invisible ink, hopes rising tall, only to find the seasons shifting beneath your feet before you can name the loss. There's an ache that doesn't shout, it just sits quietly beside you, the gap between what was prayed for in secret and what showed up at dawn. I know that ache, I do. It makes the soul feel distant, as though what you once trusted has gently slipped behind a closing door. Ecclesiastes tells us there is a season for everything under heaven, a time to plant, a time to uproot, a time to weep, a time to laugh. Sometimes we walk into our planting full of faith, but the harvest doesn't come as expected. And in that pause, where the fields are bare and the sky is silent, something in us wonders if our prayers ever left the room at all. That ache, it is older than language. It belongs to all who have ever dreamed with God, only to wake up to the ordinary day. In those deep places, it's easy to believe that disappointment means distance, to wonder if God is far off, tucked away on the other side of our heartbreak, waiting for us to get over it so we can journey on. Sometimes, we learn to keep our ache private, trying to tidy it up before we bring it into the sacred. But the soul can only carry so much weight before it simply surrenders, not in defeat, but in the most honest kind of prayer. Maybe you've whispered it too. Where are you in this, Lord? Tonight, let's rest in the quiet truth that disappointment is not exile. The ache is not a sign of separation. It's the tender ground where new trust grows. Sometimes, what feels like empty space is just the pause before divine unfolding, the moment between seed and sprout. Maybe in the slow unraveling of our hopes, the presence of God actually becomes more noticeable, not because the longing ends, but because we let Him sit with us in it. What if, in the places where you feel most forgotten, God is drawing nearer than ever, breathing into the silent room, holding your tired heart and weaving unseen beauty into the threads of your story? There is no right way to feel, only the honest ache of being human before God. And in that ache, you are deeply, utterly loved. There is no wasted time in God, no misplaced year or forgotten hour. Even the days you'd rather fast forward, the ones tinted with gray, the pauses that felt aimless, the moments you called lost, they've all been gathered up. God does not lose track of a single breath you take. It matters, because sometimes darkness feels like a long hallway and each step is heavy. But the truth is, the hallway holds you just as tight as the open meadow. The way a winter field waits beneath snow, holding wildflowers in its roots, so God is keeping safe every hope, every longing, every silent ache. Nothing surrendered, nothing missed, nothing wasted. God's patience is a gentle rain. Some seasons sound like thunder, wild and loud. Others feel like a drizzle you barely notice. But both are needed, both soften the soil. Both prepare you for bloom. Sometimes your soul is resting beneath the surface, hidden and holy like a seed pulsing quietly, waiting for spring. Some truths only whisper at midnight. The laughter that fell through cracks, the prayers spoken under sheets, the dreams packed away for another year. God is not absent in these soft, half-forgotten places. He is the memory in the walls, the warmth in your bones, and the quiet turning of your heart toward home. Even what you call delay is being woven into something beautiful. Look at the way rivers shape stone, slow and unhurried, never rushing. Water finds its way, even through the smallest opening. Your story, too, is shaped by gentle movement and waiting, by the hands that hold you, even when nothing seems to be happening, by the steady love that does not measure your worth by productivity or progress. Let tonight be rest for what you haven't understood. Let it be peace for every hour you thought was empty. God wastes nothing, and you have never, for 1 second, left his eye. The kingdom moves in the unseen. It is not always the shining light that shows the way, or the thunder that announces God's nearness. Sometimes it is the hush that falls after laughter in the kitchen, the quiet pause when no one is watching. The kingdom moves where our eyes can't reach, where our plans have fallen silent. It matters because we spend so much of our days trying to see, to hold on to something clear, a sign, a result, a word from heaven that everyone else can hear. But God, in his kindness, often builds what lasts by moving where we cannot follow, so that we can finally rest, knowing so much happens before we ever notice. Rest is easier when the unseen is allowed to be enough. This is like the way seeds wait in darkness, swelling with the slow hush of rain, full of promise no one can see, or like a letter that waits in a drawer, its words truer for the waiting, or the sound of your own breath, faithful and unnoticed, carrying you through night after night. The kingdom moves in the unseen. It is never lost time to sit quietly with God, letting the world go soft and blurry around the edges. Sacred things happen when no one is watching. Sometimes the holiest moments are the ones that don't make a sound. The unseen is where grief can become gentler, where hope is born again without any fanfare. This matters most when the day feels empty, or when prayers seem to slip through the cracks. In these places, the quiet kingdom is coming closer than it ever could in our brightest moments. It moves beneath disappointment, beneath the surface, working a kind of miracle that the mind cannot measure but the heart can sense. This is like roots moving deeper in the earth, unseen by anyone but God, or the warmth that grows quietly between two friends sitting in gentle silence, or the peace that glimmers just before sleep, a peace that makes no noise but fills the whole room. The kingdom moves in the unseen. We spend years searching for the sacred in what we can prove, but the real treasures are already alive beneath what is visible, where God's love is busy growing more tender, not louder. This is what lets us rest even when life is uncertain. The holy movement continues, no matter what our eyes can or cannot see. It matters for belonging, for relief, for the restoration of every soul that feels forgotten in the darkness. The hidden kingdom reminds us we are never outside God's presence, never left behind. This is like the gentle weight of a hand resting on yours in the night, or the way light gathers on the river long before the sun rises, or the grace that floods in when you finally surrender, letting the unseen hold you where words leave off. Sometimes, in the quiet ache of late hours, there's a wondering that rises, a question shaped more by longing than by logic. Am I truly with him now, or only performing for him? It's nothing to be ashamed of, just the quiet breath between our ancient souls and his ever-present heart. Spiritual confidence. It isn't stitched from our clever words or the weight of our striving. The soul isn't keeping score. Confidence is simply presence, God's presence, not earned or summoned, just already here, like the hush that settles after a too long day, like the friend who never leaves when the lights go out. There's no test at this hour. The only invitation is remembrance. His nearness is not the fruit of our perfection. You don't have to manufacture faith or fill the cup with effort. The cup is already held, your name already known, your breath already tender to him. Spiritual confidence is knowing you can stop the performance. You can rest the script that tries to prove your belonging. God doesn't love an act any more than you love a mask on a friend. His delight is in the soul that simply lets itself be, that doesn't rush past the trembling or the tiredness, that lets the sacred seep in, silent and true. It matters because we spend our days trying to earn what can only be received, sleepwalking into shadows, forgetting the sun rises regardless. Spiritual rest is the light that keeps shining, even when our eyelids flutter in doubt. It's for trust, for breathing deeply into the truth that you are already found, not because of what you offer, but because of who you are, His. It's the way children fall asleep on a car ride home, not needing to know the route, just trust in the safety of love. It's the sound of rain outside the window, steady and indifferent to the worries inside. It's the quiet after a hard conversation where all that's left is presence. Tonight, feel this again, the soul's homecoming, unearned. You can let yourself drop the old belief that what matters most is what you can give or fix or understand. Truth sits nearby, whispering, loved already, claimed already, cherished without a transaction. Just you, just now, just God with you in you as you rest. This is grace. Grace is not dispatched to those who measure up. It's poured out on the ones who dare to need. Grace finds you under covers when the day is too heavy and the river of thoughts will not yield. Grace waits in the sigh, visits in the midnight trembling, stands at the bedside with hands outstretched. It matters because, without grace, sleep becomes exile and nearness feels impossible. But in grace, sleep is safe. The ache finds balm. The body lets go. Your spirit can stop rehearsing, performing, proving, just remembering the one who called you good when all was dark. Grace feels like sunrise through closed eyes, like a hand smoothing your brow, like the softest lullaby from a voice you've known forever. God is not in the spotlight, but in the shadows beside your bed. He's not keeping attendance, but holding presence. Rest isn't a spiritual contest, it's a sacred remembering that there is nothing left to do, no more role to play, only presence to receive. You are not far, you are not forgotten, you are not behind. Divine remembering is the slow, holy return. Welcome home, welcome back. It feels like the river finally let go, settling into a wide, silvery hush. In the near dark, you remember all the softest parts of your story, the ones you never had to earn. Tonight has not been about answers, but echoes, not about getting it right, but letting God breathe between each heartbeat. Even in the pause, in the ache, in the slow surrender you can barely name, you have been carried without your knowing. A wave moves through you, gentle as moonlight sliding across a quiet room. The questions that once pressed, softened by sleep's slow arrival. Nothing to plan, nothing to solve. Just the passage of night, the pulse of trust, and the patience of a God who understands waiting, who himself is patient love wrapped in silence. Resting here is holy. You think again of Ecclesiastes. There is a time for everything, for waiting and for waking, for longing and for letting go. Maybe the sacred was never a finish line but a quiet seat by the river, a place where your soul is free to rest, to cry, to hope again, unhurried. God waits at the water's edge, not leaning over you with expectation, but holding the moon in his open hands, offering only the quiet invitation to stay a while. Some nights, peace arrives not as a flash, but as a small, stubborn hope beneath your ribs. You feel it, the way river stones remember rain, the way fireflies return to places they once knew, the way hands folded in prayer become a soft sanctuary even in the dark. You remember how safe it is to be known, even by silence. Let the long ache loosen. Let your breath drop low, like roots finding water at last. All that rushed and hurt and hurried inside you finds, for now, a holy hush. God's timing is not a burden. It is the gentle rhythm under all things. Sleep gathers itself in your bones as belonging. You are not behind. You have not missed your turn. The river keeps flowing, bright with moonlight and mercy, and you are right here, carried, called quietly enough. God of all the hours, friend of the midnight soul, Father who holds us quiet when the world sleeps, we come, even now with hearts unclenched. Breathe over us tonight, Lord, as the moon breathes light onto still water. Some of us wander in our dreams, still trying to carry the day, but you have called all things to their rest. In your time, all is surrendered. Nothing reaches beyond the reach of your gentle hand. Let our tiredness be our prayer. Let our letting go be our yes to you. When sleep covers us, cover us more deeply. When thoughts float near, gather them softly. When fears speak, hush them with your nighttime peace. Bring us into the holy quiet where nothing is demanded, where nothing is rushed, where all is as it should be because you are here now as you have always been. I am letting go, God, into your keeping, into your dawn. As this night unfolds, may sacred truths settle gently. I am held, no matter what the day brought. I am known by love that does not change. It is safe to release, to rest, to be remade in the silence. God is the keeper of my dreams.